Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. Dangerous connections. 19-year-old student Lizzi Marriott vanished on October 9, 2012. After her classes, she went home and left a note on the table. It was addressed to Tony and Becky Hanna, the uncle and aunt of the girl, where she was staying. In it, Lizzie said she was going to visit a friend and would be back no later than midnight. However, neither on that day nor the next did the niece return. Later, her car was found in the campus parking lot. The girl seemed to have disappeared without a trace. After some time, the search for the missing girl turned into a search for her body. The police became aware of the gruesome details of her death. Once the girl's openness and friendliness turned against her. This is a story about the danger posed by uncontrolled desires. Horrible crimes are committed when not only state, but also universal laws are violated. The freedom of one person ends where the rights of another begin. This is an undeniable truth. For Tony and Becky, their niece became a full-fledged family member. To save on housing, she moved in with them during her studies at the University of New Hampshire. Lizzie loved marine animals very much, so she chose a future profession in marine biology. She moved to Chester in the fall of 2012, leaving her parents Bob and Melissa Marriott, with whom she lived in Massachusetts. They were separated by a 2-hour drive, but they still maintained close communication. The girl had a gentle character, was kind and sweet, which made everyone love her. She would shout, "I'm home," her aunt recalled, and we felt joy in our hearts because she felt comfortable with us, and we with her. Lizzie liked her new life, and unprecedented horizons lay ahead. In her spare time, she worked at Target, where she quickly adapted and was well regarded. There, she met 18-year-old Kate McDonald. The girls quickly found a common language, often hanging out after work. Once Lizzie was already at Kate's apartment, so when she invited her again, she agreed. On October 9th, the friends met. They wanted to spend the evening together, have dinner, and watch a movie. However, their solitude was interrupted. 30-year-old Seth Mazzella, Kate's boyfriend, joined them. The heroine didn't mind the company, it's more fun together. Moreover, her new acquaintances were interesting personalities, involved in theater. And Seth graduated from the same university as Lizzie, but in theater arts. Despite the fact that the guy worked as a consultant in an electronics store, he had a rich experience. He trained as an emergency medical technician, earned a black belt in karate, and even taught martial arts. In general, they had a lot to talk about. The evening promised to be interesting and end on a good note. It's just that, entering the young people's apartment, the girl never came out again. After Lizzie didn't return by the promised time, her relatives decided to wait until the evening of the next day. Perhaps she stayed overnight at a friend's and went from there to the university. However, when she didn't show up and on October 10th, the aunt and uncle got worried and contacted her parents. It turned out they also had no information. After the unpleasant news, the mother and father got in the car and headed to Chester. On the way, they reported their daughter's disappearance. Not only the police and relatives, but also the girl's friends joined the search. The investigation began with questioning everyone who knew her. Unfortunately, the relatives didn't know where Lizzie had gone. However, thanks to her friends, this information was established. Nate McNill, a friend, said he knew where she might be and pointed to Kate McDonald. He also said he asked Kate if she had Lizzie and she said no. Detectives took note of the guy's words and started checking the new information. Meanwhile, it was found that there were no movements in the girl's bank accounts, and her phone was turned off. The initial version that she might have been in an accident was ruled out. Just a few days later, her car was found. At the same time, Bob and Melissa Marriott announced a $10,000 reward for anyone who could provide information about their daughter's whereabouts. After talking to Lizzie's friends and colleagues, investigators learned interesting information about Kate and her boyfriend. The couple was far from what they tried to appear in public. Soon after, Seth Mazzella was arrested. Lizzie and Kate's acquaintances said that recently the girls had been spending a lot of time together. However, they seemed different in character and attitude toward life. Lizzie was very sociable and compassionate, while Kate, on the contrary, was reserved and rude. What brought them closer was unclear. Those who had been working at the store for years said that this was not always the case with McDonald. After she started a relationship with Seth, she changed a lot. There was no trace of her former cheerfulness and lightness. As it turned out later, she even limited communication with her relatives, since they were against her new boyfriend. There was something suspicious about him, antisocial. The couple started dating when the girl was 17. After she turned 18, they moved in together and began living in Mazzella's apartment in Dover, New Hampshire. Paying special attention to the couple, the police checked their databases, but found nothing remarkable. Studying the profiles of young people on the internet, officers learned some details about their personal lives. Seth and Kate practiced not quite traditional relationships. On one of the websites, McDonald, under the pseudonym Miss Scarlet Vampire Actress, posted a spicy ad. She wrote that she and her lord were looking for a live-in slave. The required duties were house cleaning, dishwashing, laundry, cooking, and readiness for intimacy at any time. The girl also shared a bit about herself and her partner. She described their relationship as dominant-submissive, where the former dictates and controls, and the latter completely submits to his will. At the end, the girl attached her photos in a Gothic style. From the text, it was clear that the feelings of the two were not based on love and respect, but rather on humiliation and obedience. The couple practiced BDSM, where Seth was the dominant and Kate was the submissive. Now detectives had no doubts that they could be involved in Lizzie's disappearance. On October 12th, the young people were summoned for questioning. They were questioned simultaneously, but separately from each other. This played into the hands of the investigation. For 2 hours, Kate insisted that she hadn't met Lizzie on October 9th. After that, she refused to talk altogether. Meanwhile, Seth was more talkative. He denied his friend's words and said that on that day Marriott was indeed at their place. However, a tragedy occurred. At first, everything was fine. They watched a movie, played strip poker. After that, they engaged in a threesome. According to him, no one objected to intimacy and was morally prepared. During the process, he tied the girls with ropes, but at some point, something went wrong, and Lizzie accidentally died. Then, in a state of shock and fear of being misunderstood, he and Kate took the girl's body to Pierce Island and threw it into the Piscataqua River. After that, they went home. After an 11-hour interrogation, Mazzella went with the police to the designated place, where he vividly demonstrated how he got there and threw the body off the cliff. On October 13th, the guy was charged with murder. The news of their daughter's death was devastating for her parents. Lizzi Marriott said she had a feeling about it, but she didn't want to believe it until the last moment. On the same day, a candlelight vigil was held in memory of the departed. Her father thanked those who came and said that the prayers spoken today would help Lizzie find peace. "She has become an angel who flew to heaven," said Bob Marriott. Her friend Nate, who actively participated in the search for the girl, remembered that she always told funny stories, so she could lift spirits or comfort in difficult times. "Perhaps she would have found something to say to us in this case too," he sadly said. The girl's parents refused to accept the version of death told by Mazzella. They explained that their daughter was in a relationship and cherished it very much. According to them, she would never betray her beloved Brittany. They prayed to God and asked the police to find the poor girl's body as soon as possible, to say goodbye to her like humans and bury her. The search went on every day. Volunteers joined the efforts of the authorities. Even a private detective was working on it. However, the river, which became Lizzie's final resting place, is subject to strong tides and ebbs. It is quite possible that she has long been carried into the Atlantic Ocean. The investigation continued. A search took place in Mazzella's apartment and beyond. It is worth noting that the young couple's house was not clean and orderly. Chaos reigned everywhere. Detectives also found out that Seth was interested in occultism and black magic. Since no evidence was found in the apartment, forensic experts examined the surrounding area. In one of the trash containers, they found a bag of belongings. Among them were black leather gloves, a sweatshirt, and men's underwear. During the examination, it was established that the underwear had DNA traces belonging to Seth and Lizzie. This confirmed the intimate nature of their relationship, and the sweatshirt belonged to the deceased and was identified by her family. But what were leather gloves doing on this list? If it's a love game accessory, why get rid of it, like the rest of the evidence? Apparently, not everything in Mazzella's words was true. He could easily pass off the desired as reality. However, what Kat McDonald said confirmed it. The girl broke her silence, and on October 17th, she told what happened. She admitted that on October 9th, Lizzie came to her. Later, Seth joined them. At first, the three of them watched a movie, then played strip poker. In the process of the game, they got excited and decided to have intimate relationship. According to her, everyone's desire was mutual. It all started with kisses and tenderness. Then Seth suggested tying Lizzie up with ropes, and she agreed. The girl even showed schematically how Seth did it. Everything was going well, but suddenly, Marriott had a seizure. She began to suffocate, and moments later, she lost consciousness. When Seth and Kat lifted the girl, she wasn't breathing. Everything happened quickly and unexpectedly. McDonald claimed that no one was to blame for what happened. It was an accident. However, a significant role in the investigation was played by the testimony of an unexpected witness. One day, a young woman went to the police station. She said she had important information about Lizzi Marriott's case and asked to speak to the detectives leading the investigation. During the conversation, she introduced herself as Catherine Fish, Seth Mazzella's ex-girlfriend. From the conversation, it became clear what she was hinting at. Seth was capable of murder. Once he confessed to her that in one of his fantasies, he takes someone's life. But let's start from the beginning. Catherine and Seth met about 10 years ago. At first, he seemed attentive and caring. He courted her beautifully, didn't skimp on flowers and gifts. He was very charming in conversation. The girl quickly fell in love with the affable young man. But at the moment of their first intimacy, she learned that he was into BDSM. At first, she didn't mind new sensations, as long as he kept himself under control. However, later, Seth began to show excessive cruelty and dominance. He didn't want to be contradicted or stopped. Sometimes he shared his thoughts and fantasies with her. During one such conversation, Catherine heard a terrible confession. Then she realized he could be dangerous. As if to confirm this, he grabbed her by the throat very tightly once. The girl begged him to let go, but he wouldn't stop and continued to squeeze harder. This incident finally shattered her illusions. Since they moved to another city, the girl didn't know where to go to get away from him. She didn't know anyone and didn't communicate with anyone. Besides, she was financially dependent on her boyfriend, so she continued to live with him, waiting for a convenient moment to escape. Catherine admitted that over time, Seth started talking about a third partner. He got bored with her in bed, so he decided to spice things up. Therefore, he periodically brought different girls to their house, but none of them stayed long. So Mazzella said they needed to find a permanent girlfriend. Catherine's life turned into hell. Catherine admitted that Seth had frightened her so much that she didn't dare to escape. After a few months, gathering courage, she finally decided to run away. Fish miraculously overcame the distance of 1,000 miles to get to her parents' house. But that's another story. She never saw her ex-boyfriend again. In May 2014, Seth Mazzella appeared in court. The prosecution believed that the defendant was guilty not only of intentional murder, but also of taking advantage. Several people testified against him. Shortly before the trial, among them was Kat McDonald. 2 months after Lizzie's death, she too was arrested and was in custody. She was charged with obstruction of justice and investigation. The girl had plenty of time to analyze what had happened and understand whom she was covering for. Initially, while behind bars, she and Seth were actively corresponding. The lovers dreamed of escaping and going to another country where there were no extradition laws. They wanted to get married and have children. However, their escape plan suffered a setback. In the winter of 2012, Seth persuaded his cellmate Ryan Bachman, who was soon to be released. Mazzella gave him access to his bank account. Bachman was supposed to withdraw money, buy drugs with it, and sell them, thereby increasing the initial capital. With this amount, they planned to buy weapons, 2 cars, explosives, and a boat. However, the friend decided to use the money for his own purposes. Moreover, authorities learned about the plan. After that, Seth abandoned the escape plan and sent Kat a letter suggesting they meet in the afterlife. He sincerely believed that death was not the end of life. Perhaps, in this way, he hinted to the girl about ending her life. In any case, time helped McDonald. Her thoughts cleared up. Therefore, when in 2014 the prosecutor's office offered her a favorable deal, she agreed without hesitation. According to it, the suspect had to tell the truth about what happened in the apartment on the evening of October 9th. In return, the threatened 20-year prison sentence was reduced to 3, a fairly advantageous offer, considering the circumstances that became known to the investigation afterward. The girl admitted that she was very afraid of Seth and obeyed him in everything. He gradually suppressed her will, deprived her of independence. A month and a half before the tragedy, the guy sent her a message ordering her to find a third partner as soon as possible, because he didn't want to be alone while Kat was away. The thing is, the girl had 10-day theater tours scheduled. However, McDonald never found a replacement for herself. Over time, the tone of Mazzella's messages changed. From orders, he moved on to threats, and promised a terrible retribution if she didn't do what he wanted. At the very least, Kat had to bring one of her friends, with whom he could carry out his plan. To fulfill the order, Kat invited Lizzie over. She agreed easily because she had been a guest at her place once and trusted her. And to ensure that the girl came without hesitation, McDonald kept silent about the fact that they wouldn't be alone. Seth liked the presumed partner. He had seen her photos before, so he eagerly awaited the appointed hour. Imagine the disappointment and anger the guy felt when the evening didn't go as planned. On October 9th at 9 p.m., Marriott arrived at Mazzella's apartment. At first, Kat and Lizzie spent time together, chatting. Then Seth joined them. He was cheerful, joked a lot, and took care of the girls. In general, he brightened up the evening. After that, the young people started watching a movie. During the viewing, Seth suggested playing strip poker, dimming the lights in the room. He wanted to create a conducive atmosphere for intimacy. The game was casual, but Lizzie was losing, so she ended up in her underwear. In another losing hand, Seth suggested kissing Kat, but the girl refused, explaining that she was already in a relationship and it repulsed her. After a while, the heated guy suggested Marriott to be alone, to which she categorically replied no. In response to her reaction, Seth went to his room, where he put on black leather gloves and took out a rope. After that, he returned and sat behind Lizzie. When Seth slipped the weapon over her neck, the unsuspecting girl didn't even have time to scream. He strangled the girl without blinking an eye. Then the murderer carried out his plan and violated the body of the deceased. All this time, his girlfriend sat nearby and silently watched. Kat explained that she was very scared. She was afraid of becoming the next victim, so she did nothing to help the poor girl. Around 1 a.m, the couple wrapped Lizzie's body in tarpaulin and put it in a suitcase, which they carried to Lizzie's car. Then they headed to Pierce Island by the river there, where they lifted the suitcase onto an observation deck, pulled out the dead Marriott, and threw her off the cliff. Then they cleaned up in the car together, drove to campus, and left the girl's car in the parking lot. The couple walked 10 miles home. Kat explained that she was scared by what was happening and was in a state of shock. And later, she didn't want to testify against the guy because she knew he wouldn't have any trouble getting rid of her. During the trial, the girl kept sobbing constantly. but not a single tear fell from her eyes. Because of this, many in the courtroom doubted her sincerity. She was a good actress and could easily pretend to be miserable. This caught the attention of Seth's lawyer. He claimed that the girl could professionally transform into any role. The defendant's defense insisted that Lizzie died accidentally during intimacy. At the same time, no one denied that Seth and Kat got rid of her by disposing of the body. McDonald's defense, on the other hand, argued that Kat had been under pressure for a long time, which had shaken the girl's mental state. The guy essentially limited her communication with family and friends, constantly controlling and coercing her into intimacy. The prosecution focused on deliberate murder, emphasizing the discovered gloves. According to the prosecutor, Mazzella knew what he was going to do with Lizzie, so he deliberately put them on. He did it to protect himself and hide the traces. Considering all the circumstances, his action was by no means accidental. Witnesses for the prosecution also included Roberta Gherkin and Paul Hickok, acquaintances of the couple. It turns out that at 10:49 p.m., after Marriott's murder, Seth called them. He said he needed help and asked them to come over. After 11 p.m., they appeared at Mazzella's apartment and saw a strange scene. Seth was sitting on the bed, and a girl in lingerie lay next to him. When Paul asked what was going on, Seth replied, "This time things went too far." He repeated this phrase over and over again. Roberta found Kat on the kitchen floor. The girl was sitting in the fetal position and rocking back and forth. The arriving couple immediately said to call an ambulance and quickly left. They didn't interfere and didn't call the police because they didn't want any extra trouble. On August 14, 2014, Seth Mazzella was found guilty of first-degree murder by strangulation, taking advantage, and criminal conspiracy. The 32-year-old man was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. 20-year-old Kat McDonald received the promised 3 years of imprisonment. It is known that in 2016, the girl was released. She does not maintain any social networks, at least not under her own name. Some believe she returned to her parents. Lizzi Marriott's body was never found. The girl's parents couldn't bury their daughter, so they made a small memorial for her in the form of a bench by the lake in their hometown. Bob and Melissa Marriott believe that the sentence is too lenient for Lizzie's former friend. Although the perpetrator is punished, they cannot call it justice. The girl is dead and will never return. However, her case can serve as an example for other women. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel. There are many shocking stories ahead of you.